7, and he's got a 2-game lead, Robert. What are your thoughts on Weili and his potential?
I think he's awesome. He was 27.50 something, I believe, at his absolute peak.
Yep.
And he's now around 27.30. But it's just, and I couldn't tell you from experience. I've never been that highly rated. But to go from that 27.20 to 27.60, that jump seems extraordinarily difficult. We have seen many players, for example, Radek Wojtaszek is around 27.30 something. And I think he has been at 27.50, but you often see him closer to 27.30. David Navarro, similar boat. They are both incredibly talented players whom I certainly look up to their chess abilities, but there's something that keeps them from reaching the level of Wesley So, Hikaru Nakamura.
Right.
So, it's pretty difficult apparently to go higher than that. And well, for Weili, he's still very young. Perhaps he's still kind of gathering his bearings and is learning things about chess every single day. As we mentioned a little earlier, he lost his round against Yu Yangyi yesterday in China in that round robin tournament. So he's still learning, he's still growing, and we'll see if he can make that jump from 27.30 into the 27.70 range because he's still, 21 or something?
Yeah, no, he's still super young. So it'll be interesting to see. And obviously, this is the first year we've ever had him in the Speed Chess Championship, and
he's
probably won't be the last. So right now, he's got a Lopez that looks about as awkward as you can get with the bishop on d2 instead of the knight. Something tells me that d5 is actually a really well-timed shot by Wesley here, Robert.
Yeah. So wait, queen takes f3, pawn takes e. He's going to do d4.
No, he goes d4. Okay.
Which makes sense because there's a bishop on d2 and a knight on b1 that can't come out right now. And if you play a move like bishop to g5, well, if you do eventually move your knight to d2 after going bishop to g5, you always have to consider d takes d3, b takes b4 to give the black knight that d4 square. So that's something to keep in mind as a sort of theme. But what I just looked up is Weili really 19 years old? Wow. So, okay, he's even younger than I thought he was, and so it kind of goes to show that
he's got that mature kind of like I've been here before look on camera right now. But yeah, he's he's a young pup.
Yeah, and in this game, he's got the white pieces. He is met with someone who's very experienced in these lines. And note, it's important to note that Wesley played e4, e5 this game. He didn't want to get into a French again. He must not have enjoyed. He did lose that game, but his opening was slightly worse after the opening stage, so he's deviating. And I think we'll see a lot of that from Wesley in the match. He seems to be someone who knows his openings very well, but is not afraid to mix it up. And right now, for Weili, he was eating up clock, burning clock. He has 3 minutes and 8 seconds. His opponent is a minute and a half more than he does. And right now, you don't want to take on d5. So he didn't. He took on c3. I don't think I love that move necessarily. I would take with the bishop on c3. And that way, after knight takes d5, pawn takes d5, you have to go knight d4. I think I take on d4, and I'm left. How do I feel about this? Now I'm sort of second guessing how much I like this, but I thought that white would take over the e file and have a knight against a bishop in a favorable dynamic. So I took with the pawn on c3 and made my whole point move.
Well, he had to hold the d4 square, right? But it still feels that ever since black played d5, white is in a less than ideal Lopez. Am I over exaggerating the importance of the fact that black broke through with d5 on move 10 when white's development wasn't quite ready for the center to open?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's beneficial for white, but in this particular line, it doesn't look to be the case because the knight on b1 has nowhere to go. The bishop on d2 is sort of stuck hanging onto the c3 pawn. So even a move like rook to d8 here, either rook, I believe, is a decent-looking move because if white ever captures on e5, you simply play knight d7 to regain that pawn. And he played rook d8. It looked like a good move to me. And if you play d5 as white, I move my queen from c6 and then play pawn to c6 next move. And that just chisels at that white pawn center.
Yeah. It's not the size of the center, it's how you use it, right? If you can't hold it down, then it's just a target for black to poke at for the rest of the game.
For sure. And right now it's certainly being poked at. The knight on b1 is really what's bothering me. I'm someone who likes to develop my pieces.
Yep.
And, well, knight on b1, bishop on d2, not doing a great job of looking particularly developed.
So what was the theory here? I know these guys have played main line, and I know I'm going back to it because we're talking about the strategic evolution of this position being one where black broke with d5 and now feels like he has the much more active pieces, and white is struggling to get developed to protect the center. Where did white maybe go wrong on the analysis board here? Back to this move bishop d2 is a unique type of development in this line, right? We see more traditional Italian ideas like c3 to maintain the flexibility of d4 and eventually bring the knight to d2, maybe f1, and you do the thing that we see a lot of players do, bring their knights over to the king side. So do you know much about this line, or why Wesley recognized his opportunity to kind of change the game here with d5?
Well, so he played d5 because, well, I don't really know much of the bishop d2 line. I know it is a played line, but once c3 happens, now you play d5 because the pawn on d3 is a potential target.
Right.
So he kind of waits for the c3 push and then plays d5, despite having played d6 two moves prior. So
it's instructive stuff, I think, for players who play the structure to see how players of this level look for opportunities, weaknesses are created, things change, and then you change the center with it. Okay, we're not calling the game yet, but I actually really like Wesley to get his first win here. I'm thinking, why don't I put a piece on d3, double on the d file, and yeah, here he goes. He feels good about black's chances.
Yeah, white can't do anything. There's knight on b1. It's going to be
it's been there the whole game.
It's going to be the reason why white loses. Just rook to d1 now.
Yep.
How is this knight expecting to get out? Like ever? It's
like ever, like ever, forever, ever.
Forever, ever.
Sorry, first Outcast reference we've ever had on the show. Is that the first Miss Jackson reference of all time?
Are you for real?
Oh man, I'll just tell you, I'm sorry, Miss Jackson. But all right,
okay.
Yeah, I agree. And it seems sometimes you can make these games seem as simple as chess we always wanted it to be when we were young and teaching kids. Like, hey, white had a neglected development. Didn't choose the most traditional or active development schemes. Black opened the center and now has had the initiative ever since. c3's weak. I look at knight a4 as a move now, but I don't even want to go take that pawn if it means I'm helping Wei Yi deal with this horrible knight on b1, right? So what plan do we develop here that doesn't help the queen side?
I think that actually can be very difficult. Is when you sacrifice a pawn, you oftentimes want to regain that pawn to even the material as quickly as possible. And I was going to say this move h5 because you play h5, threaten to go h4, you give your king luft. You can play knight a4 at any moment. It's not like the c3 pawn will suddenly be well defended here. Now I would even play knight e6 because now I can go to f4.
Oh, I like that idea. Oh, Robert, talking dirty now. Look at this, everyone. Knight's coming to f4, queen's going to g6, and watch out for that spot.
Knight f4 already just looks
just do it. Just do it.
Because if you play knight f4, what is white trying to do? Play bishop g3 to kick this knight out? Then I think I can just go knight takes h3 check.
Yeah, you might just go to Sacktown. How does that work? Knight f4, bishop g3, takes, and queen g6?
No, I'm not going to go queen g6. I'm going to go rook takes f3, and then my other rook.
Well, I was going to say queen g6 because you can't defend with the king because of idea. Oh, no, never mind. Okay, you're right. Just take f3. I don't have enough.
And then put my other rook on d3, and then just kind of mow down the third rank.
Okay, but we're going to find out if he feels the same way. But seems like be creeping here to the king side.
Yeah, even queen h6 is a great move, just protecting the knight. If you take on f4, your dark scores are horrible.
Right.
So if you don't feel like sacrificing, play queen h6 and just defend that knight.
Let's look at knight takes h3 again. Knight takes, pawn takes. You like rook takes f3. I'll defend and play devil's advocate. I'll play bishop h2. What's the next move? Oh, you even have queen c5 and then rook f2. And it looks like
bishop c5, one of those, something to c5 is happening.
We got a queen c5 in the game. I like that decision by Wesley there, everybody, to not go all in because your opponent is down to 10 seconds, right?
Yep, I wasn't even looking at that. Now that you mention it, I see 8.9 on the clock. And so it should be pretty straightforward, much, much better for black. So no need to take any crazy risks that could backfire. Just win the game in your opponent's time trouble.
No, and that's the point we're making, everybody. Sometimes you have those critical roads, right? You're making a decision at the fork in the road, but assess your opponent's difficulty to defend it as much as whether you really like an idea. And here, keeping the opponent white in the bad structure that he's already been in, basically playing down a knight and a rook. Yeah, it just made it much easier for the position to play.
From London to Taiwan, I've been all around the globe trying to protect